Benchmarks are a marketing department dressed up as science. Google just dropped Gemini 2.5 Pro, and the headline was irresistible. Number 1 on MMLU. Number 1 on GPQA. Top marks on HumanEval. The leaderboard went green across the board, and half the tech press wrote the same article. Best model ever. Case closed. Except it is not closed. It is not even honest. The villain here is not Google specifically. It is every foundation model lab that spends millions optimizing for benchmark performance because they know you will never run your own tests. Google, OpenAI, Anthropic, Meta, they all play the same game. They train on data that looks suspiciously like the test set. They cherry-pick evaluation categories. They announce scores on tasks that almost no production system actually performs. And the reason is simple. Benchmarks are cheap to win and expensive to question. When Gemini 2.5 Pro scores 92% on MMLU, nobody asks what happens when you feed it a messy invoice PDF and ask for structured JSON with nested line items. Nobody asks because the answer is embarrassing. Here is how you actually evaluate a model. And I mean actually, not the way your vendor wants you to. Point 1. Structured output conformance. If your application needs JSON, XML, or any schema-bound response, you build a suite of at least 200 prompts that demand exact conformance. Not close. Exact. You parse every response programmatically. You track schema violations, hallucinated fields, and type mismatches. When I ran this against Gemini 2.5 Pro on a real e-commerce extraction task, the failure rate on nested arrays was north of 14%. The benchmark score for code generation tells you nothing about this. Nothing. Point 2. Retrieval-augmented generation fidelity on your corpus. Everyone talks about RAG like it is a solved problem. It is not. You take your actual documents, your actual chunk sizes, your actual embedding model, and you build a ground truth test set of 50 to 100 question-answer pairs where you know the correct passage and the correct answer. Then you measure two things: retrieval recall and answer faithfulness. Does the model stick to what the retrieved context says, or does it blend in parametric knowledge and quietly hallucinate? Gemini 2.5 Pro appears to be more aggressive about injecting its own training data into RAG responses than Claude 3.5 Sonnet was in my testing. That is not a benchmark category. That is a production disaster waiting to happen. Point 3. Latency and cost under concurrent load. A model can be brilliant at batch size 1. The question is what happens at batch size 200. You measure time to first token and total generation time at realistic concurrency for your workload. You calculate cost per 1,000 output tokens at that concurrency. In my analysis, Gemini 2.5 Pro through the API showed meaningful latency degradation under moderate concurrent requests, compared to GPT-4o on equivalent tasks. The leaderboard does not have a column for that. If you are still here, you are the kind of person who refuses to let a press release make your architecture decisions. Subscribe. The industry needs more of that energy, and we are just getting started. Now here is the counterargument I hear most. Benchmarks are standardized. Your custom eval is not. How do we compare models without a common yardstick? Fair point. Genuinely fair. But here is why it collapses. A standardized test only matters if it predicts performance on your task. And the correlation between MMLU score and production accuracy on domain-specific extraction, summarization, or multi-turn agent workflows is weak. I have seen models that score 5 points lower on public benchmarks outperform the leader by 20% on actual customer-facing tasks. Standardization is valuable for research. It is dangerous for procurement. The moment you pick a model because it won a leaderboard instead of because it won your eval suite, you have outsourced your engineering judgment to a marketing team. So here is where we land. Gemini 2.5 Pro might be the right model for your use case. It might not. The point is that you cannot know from a leaderboard. You can only know from your own adversarial test harness running against your own data with your own latency and cost constraints. Build the eval, run the eval, trust the eval, trust nothing else. So tell me, Have you ever shipped a model into production based on benchmark scores alone and watched it fall apart? Or do you still think the leaderboards are good enough?